What's going on, everyone? Scotty White of World Combat Sports. Welcome. Hopefully, everybody day is going great. It's Saturday in the PM. We're still on COVID-19 lockdown, y'all. But today's topic, as you read already, we want to talk about the life of boxing. We want to talk about during this actual shutdown, will it ever be the same once everything is lifted? Will our normalcy that we was used to before actually get back to routine, or will it be absolutely something different than we actually experience in the sport of boxing? That being, will it be even stronger? Because sometimes a reset is much better than just everyday routine. You know what I'm saying? Like this has not happened to the point where boxing has been shut down the way it has. So with that said, let me get in to the supporters. Everyone who's tuned in, be sure to smash the like button. Truly appreciate it. If you have any comments, drop them in the comment section. We're streaming via Facebook and YouTube simultaneously. And for those primary followers who support World Combat Sports, it's always appreciated. Salute to you all, and share the content. So, more exposure is good exposure, especially if it's positive, you know what I'm saying? So boxing life, will it ever be the same, or will it come back even stronger? Let's talk about what it takes right here, right now, during COVID-19. I know a lot of people that's in April, right? They really looking forward to potentially this lifting next month, but we're on day 11 of April. The one process that has to happen in this whole situation doesn't have anything to do with boxing. All the exterior has to start panning out, leveling down, so to speak. And the bans and not even the bans being lifted, but before the bans, we have to see a decrease in the COVID-19 outbreaks and the patients and everybody else globally. We're talking about within this nation, we have to start seeing almost fairly none new outbreaks, no new outbreaks. It has to be settled down in the hospitals. It has to be something that's mentioned, with solid AP sources, right? We're not talking about fake news and all this other stuff. We're talking about people that are actually in that particular region seeing it. The hospitals are dying down with the current patients that's in there. The ones that are actively sick right now, they're getting better. They're being cleared for outpatient. We need to see all that. It's so many variables that's on the outside before boxing even gets started again. We're not talking about just locking on venues, y'all. We're talking about this virus has to be pretty much concrete in its declivity. It has to stay there. It has sustained an amount of non-effectiveness, and then they have to take consideration at that point. They have to say, hey, this is safe for us to venture back into the arenas. Even if they chop it back up to 50 in a public gathering, even if they do that, still, are we going to have these individuals in place to make the decision to say, you know what, 6 feet, we don't need to worry about that right now. People need to understand how important 6 feet is, because there's no way you're going to have a public gathering with 6 feet still in effect. You cannot host a boxing match unless you keep it at 10 and you allow people to be spread out through the arena. And then with that being the way it is, what about the staff? Is the staff going to have to come up to the ring? Of course. Is the cornerman going to have to be less than 6 feet from the fighter? Of course. So the 6 feet rule is very, very important to boxing even coming close to being lifted. It's extremely important, because if they don't lift the 6 feet rule, then I'm not sure what's going to happen, how long we're going to be in this, because there's a lot of scared people out here due to the COVID-19 outbreaks that's still actively going on, people dying. So for them to lift the 6 feet rule, then it will bleed over to the gathering. If no new outbreaks, it has to be weeks. You have to look at it that way. It has to be weeks with no new outbreaks, y'all, across the board. Weeks can be like 3 to 4 weeks. That's a whole nother month. We're looking at April right now. We can actually go into May and have a declivity of freaking new outbreaks, right? But still, it has to be across the board from region to region, not just in New York. And unfortunately for New York, one of the meccas of boxing, they was hit the worst. New York was hit the worst out of everything. That's like the round table of boxing right there. That's the stopping point. That's where all the foot traffic's at. That's where the schedule lays its head, y'all. NYC. And right now, they're going through it. So in order for anything to take place with boxing coming back, to the forefront and putting on active cards, NYC is one of those areas that really has to sustain the numbers for weeks. I'm talking about, we will have to go a whole month and see NYC with no new outbreaks. Seriously, it has to be that long. Stephen Wood, what's good with you, man? Salute for stopping through, man. What's good? What's good? Things won't be normal again till summer 2021. God damn. Don't say that, bro. Stephen said, look, we ain't gonna be straight until summer of 2021, y'all. God damn. Look, if he is correct, summer 2021 before boxing returns, that's gonna hurt a lot of veterans. First of all, it's gonna destroy a lot of regional promoters. All right, it's gonna destroy a lot of boxers, because I haven't really been trying to prognosticate any negativity when it comes to this COVID-19, when it comes to young fighters that's on the come up, right? But these young fighters that's on the regional level, climbing the ladder, getting notoriety, building their resume, especially if they're undefeated. It's going to be extremely hard for them to say, you know what? Especially they was in training camp before all this happened. They have to look at, is it worth, the risk to get back into boxing? Just when you see the light, you jump back in it, you fully committed, and then something else happened. We're not even looking at the possibility of being cleared to resume just a shade of normalcy, right? We're not even thinking about, once we cleared, we have to have sustainment. And once that sustainment happens, we're talking about people from all over, region to region. They have to make sure we're looking at over a month or more. We have to make sure it's clean. We have to make sure everything is clean, man. And then, even then, it's going to be rules in place for us to walk into a boxing arena again, just for safety measures and precaution. They're just going to say, hey, right now in NYC, you can't go up into a restaurant unless you have a mask on. So therefore, NYC being one of the meccas of boxing, they might say, you know what, you can't get in a fight card without a mask on. And then you look at it like this. How the trainers and the cut man and everybody else is going to be affected? How can they release a rule or order when boxing is that full contact sport? You know what I'm saying? Like, boxing is a full contact sport. The two pugilists that's in the ring, they have to make contact with each other with no mask. You know what I'm saying? So who are you protecting? Are you going to protect the fighters? Or are you going to protect those who are around in the arena? And for those who are in the arena, what are the numbers going to be like? Because if you have fighters that's on the entire fight card, and they're back in the dressing room or whatever, do they have to put on masks? Are they used to wearing a mask when they're warming up? A lot of shit gonna take place. Like boxers ain't going in there fighting with masks on. They're going in there with trunks, glove, shoes. That's it, and a mouthpiece. You know what I'm saying? There's no way the boxer's gonna go in there and fight with a freaking mask on. It's impossible. We're not even giving those scenarios. Steven said, like you said, it has to be controlled before they can even think to lift the sixth rule. I agree, bro. I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying. It has to be so much to the point where, hearing you say, okay, 2021, summer of 2021, right? I can't even say that's far-fetched. I can't sit up here and shake my head and say, you know what? That's bloviating the point a little bit. This thing is so bad, it may indeed bleed over to 2021. If boxing goes from this March all the way to the end of the year with no matches, it's going to be detrimental. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's going to be detrimental to the sport for a long time. If boxing isn't able to start back its rotation and become active again, and we see this, combat sports in general is going to take such a huge hit. You're going to have fighters not knowing what to do. You have fighters who are actually dependent on making a paycheck. You know what I'm saying? They've been taking their time out, investing their whole livelihood to come in here and fight. So for them to sit up here and say, you know what, we still don't have a TBA on this COVID-19. Once we're able to resume, we still don't have no TBA. Do you know how stressful that is? You know how much anxiety is going on with these fighters that was dependent on this, man? This is absolutely bad, y'all. This shit is bad. If indeed this shit's bleed over to 2021 with no bouts the rest of this year, no bouts. If they don't lift, look, one thing I can say about what may happen out of desperation before we even clear, this what I can say may happen. Small businesses, the government is going to have to take a look and allow small businesses to resume operation. Or else we're going to have an economy that's so fragmented. It's going to take, we're talking about being in debt right now. It's going to take the government to basically fund these small businesses to get back into full function as they were before this took place. They're going to have to give them some type of relief effort to get back into the business, to get back to normalcy and function in everyday life. If they don't lift the ban as far as these businesses goes, the gathering this year, the world itself, the economic destruction is upon us. Believe that. It's just going to be so bad, man. You're going to be looking at people unable to support themselves. And then we're talking about fighters. It's going to be fighters, man, that's unable, whenever that is, unable to return to the sport. They just don't have the finances to do it. They gym may be shut down. You know what I'm saying? This is affecting a lot of branches when it comes to boxing. People who was training these fighters, they're unable to open their doors. They don't want to get fined. Come on, man. This boxing, if we didn't have this gathering, you know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure the gyms would be packed. Seriously. I'm pretty sure the gyms would be packed. If we had the proper essentials medically to test these fighters before they go into the gym, it would be cool. But you know what? Those test kits are not even something that we have out here yet. And then if you did have test kits, what would be the price tag on them? What would be the price tag on these test kits? Steven say boxing without having fans, how do they make a true dollar? That's understandably a good point, man. But the one thing about that, when it comes to the network, though, even if they are able to put the fights on, the network itself can maintain that responsibility. You know, they can't put every fight at PPV. They can't do that. The only thing that's going to work is that, the people that has these apps, most of it is ESPN Plus over here. If you with the Zone, you have that app. But when it comes down to Gate is absent. It's non-existent. It's no way that shit is going to happen, y'all. That's a good question, man. New York is a ticking time bomb. Vegas. Will Fury retire? It's going to be a nice layoff. Like you said, COVID-19 is jeopardizing people's career. Yeah, man. It's just so many other variables before we actually enter, into the talking points of saying, guess what? A fight card is upcoming right now. I'm looking forward to it. It's a stacked card too. We're so far away from that. People, I'm hearing people in groups think that if May comes around, right, and being that the economy is stricken by this, right, they believe that the government is going to be forced to make changes just because the economy is already in a dire need, right, of resuscitation. So people believing that the virus is over here and desperation is over here. So you think the government is going to look upon the people that whom are desperate to get back into life and make money, to feed their families and everything else. You think the government is going to look out for them when the virus is still actively taking people's lives? It's not going to happen, people. Boxing is so far down the road when it comes to this checklist we have to green up. It's just, I can't even place a month. I can't even put anything on it, man. Like, will it ever be the freaking look? Will boxing ever be the same if we're unable to jumpstart in 2020? If we're unable, look, not just jump starting, but we're talking about being able to have people attend certain areas. You know what I'm saying? Because New York, you can't compare New York to ground zero like 9/11. 9/11 happened and there was nothing else there. There's nothing else to go visit. Nothing. They had to do recovery. The first responders were there, all the recovery process. It was nothing to go to. What was there before was gone, right? New York is way beyond ground zero, y'all. It's way bigger than that. And you're probably saying, well, it's so many people lost their lives in the towers. That's not what I'm talking about. They don't have. That was isolated. That was centrally isolated. And we pretty much had an understanding. The plane went in there. It was people, boom, the towers came down, right? But in New York, it's everywhere. We cannot place one constraint as to where this virus is at. That what makes NYC such a detriment to boxing. Seriously. This is not going on in Vegas like this. I know it's nice and hot in Vegas, and they say, oh, the COVID-19 virus, it doesn't thrive in heat. So guess what? It's not always cold in New York City. But what we're looking at as far as all the cases that we're seeing in the mecca of boxing, such a huge footprint, and Madison Square Garden, Barclays, Prudential Center up there in New Jersey, all that is affected. So you're looking at the gyms that's in there that has to be inspected. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just so much paperwork and checklists that has to get approved before they even start opening the doors to schedule a fight card. And not only that, the promoters, they have to have ample amount of time to promote a fight card. They have to get fighters that didn't have an estimate time to return. They have to get back in the gym full time, especially if you're a champion. And then they have to make a fight card that's fair, heavy, to gather the fans back. And then that weighs heavy on how many are allowed to gather. Are they going to start off with 10 again? Are they going to start off with 15, 20? That's the whole process. How many are they going to start off with to get this sport back thriving again? because the sport cannot thrive unless they allow a portion of the masses to return to these venues. You can't sit up here and say boxing if you don't have the masses at the gate to pay for those tickets. There's no way boxing is going to be able to hydrate itself and push forward and get this kicking again. Steven said they got to bail out small business. Look at all the gyms that are going to close. If they ain't already closed, good point, man. So do fighter pay go? Do fighter paydays go down? This what I know about. Let's start at the regional base level. Fighters at the base level aren't getting paid anything. Seriously. And you know, the ones that are signed to a contract or whatever at the higher promotions, you know, the top tier promotions, I don't know what they have in their contractually. You and I, we don't know what they have contractually. You know, what they're able to get by with. Is it a certain amount of weeks they're able to receive a stipend? We don't know any of that. I'm pretty sure it's some fighters out there with some nice contracts, and they're taken care of. They don't have to worry too much about this. They're able to sit up there and feed their family. So with that said, that doesn't mean they can go out here and splurge and spend, you know what I'm saying, and not be able to think wisely about spending their money. But when it comes down to stipend, this is what people are talking about all the time about boxing. Boxing doesn't have that residual pay that goes out in a time of need like this. I know, you know, people want to talk about promoters and insurance. Listen, that insurance deal, it pretty much involves a fighter fighting that night. Whatever happens with the fighter, he get injured. If the fighter notifies them at that point in time, goes to get checked out medically, then those are assessed and taken care of. And those insurance, you know, that fighter insurance bill, medical bill is pretty much compensated. You know what I'm saying? They make them whole, right? But as far as receiving residual, receiving a stipend for support, doing your injury, hell no. I mean, how can that happen? If boxing was like that, look, everybody would be in boxing. They say, you know what? Let me get in boxing. If I fight for a certain amount of weeks, I rate a stipend. No, I mean, they don't have that plan, man, that spreadsheet like the military or any other government job where you can take off and you may possibly get paid leave. Boxing has never been about that. Boxing doesn't have a retirement plan. That's bad, ain't it? That shit is bad, yo. That's beyond bad. He said, do you think we'll be watching fights like Ultimate Fighter show, just judges, trainers, ref, and doctors? I don't think so. The reason why I don't think so, because that effort went out the window when Dana White was trying to have UFC 249 on the island, on the Tachi Palace casinos, right? In Lemoore, California. So Dana White was the last man standing. And until the governor of California, Governor Newsom, he said, you know what? That ain't happening, partner. You ain't going over my head and find a loophole. I'm the governor of California. You ain't testing me like that. I get where the governor's coming from. He's talking about, you know, Dana White trying to take advantage of the loophole and going into an Indian reservation and putting on these fights. The governor called ESPN and the parent company Disney, and they linked up and told Dana to stand down, y'all. They told Dana White, stand down. I commend Dana White for his courage, his fortitude to keep on pushing. I commend him for that. But this is serious. And you know what made it happen? You know why it got to the point of concern where people just had to have him shut down? Is when Rose Namajunas pulled out of the co-main event because two of her family members supposedly died from COVID-19. That in itself was basically another flag that they were saying, you know what, we can't play around with this. What is he thinking? What is one of his fighters get COVID-19? What is Dana White going to think if he gets a lawsuit? I'm pretty sure he got enough money to handle a lawsuit. But after the lawsuit, he's getting rid of that fighter. Gone. They probably go over to Bellator or something. PFL if they still got, have a decent career. But think about that. So the governor of California say, "Nah, man, I'm shutting you down. This ain't popping." You understand your hierarchy. You do understand the power of authority for which you present internal to the UFC. But statewide, regional, Governor Newsom said, "I got the power. And I'm going to make these phone calls. And it ain't snitching. It's what I can do because I hold a position. I hold the power as the governor of California to look out in the best interest in you trying to make a fight on a reservation that's internal to the state. Just because they fall up on a different government, they're governed under different rules, doesn't mean he can't make the phone calls." So the governor, he made the phone calls to ESPN and Disney, and they told Dana White it ain't happening. So to answer your question there, Stephen, it's no way Dana White can put on an Ultimate Fighter is he was just trying to do that. He was just basically trying to reciprocate what you just asked. He was going to have the minimal staff. I take that back. He probably was going to come in there 2025, approximately, because once again, they're not governed by the same rules as the state itself, right? So Dana White was going to go in there with more than 10, and he was going to try to make it work. But the one thing about the Ultimate Fighter, the cage is a different size. And then if you're talking about looking at the Ultimate Fighter as a whole, the gathering still has to accommodate, because you look at the Ultimate Fighter, you had the teams, you know what I'm saying? You had two teams. So you had, with the teams itself, we're looking at a minimum of 20, give or take 20, right? And then you have to look at the coaches and their training team for both sides. Then you have to look at the cameras, and then whoever else in there. It was a pretty good amount of people. You know what I'm saying? It was a pretty good amount of staff. So just because it's the Ultimate Fighter with no audience, still Dana White needs a staff big enough to make all the components work together. It has to mesh perfectly for us, the viewers, to tune into it. And the fights are going to be different. If you're talking about having the high-end fighters that's not really trying to work for a job, they already have a job. They're some of the elite fighters, or are they making themselves up the chain? Do they really want to go in there with no audience in a small ass gymnasium and fight such an important fight, especially if they rank top 5? You think they want to fight in a small enclosed area? Some of them guys need an audience. Real talk, y'all. Some of them guys need a freaking one cheer or two. They need somebody. They need a corner screaming. They need some fans out there. They need that extra energy outside the cage to get them through a fight. Seriously. I just don't. It's just so many variables, man. Seriously, it's just so many variables. There's no way that setup for the Ultimate Fighter will work, man. Dana White, even in that setting, he still had about 20 people minimum on deck to host that. Dana don't got them Vince McMahon connects. But check this out, Steven. I hear people saying that a lot about Vince McMahon, Dana White. I hear people saying that a lot. But understand this, what's different about Vince McMahon and Dana White. Vince McMahon is wrestling entertainment. You can put on a show of entertainment because those particular wrestlers understand what their process is once they split the ropes. They have the routine down, everything. So they don't need cornermen. They don't need trainers. They don't need any of that. Vince McMahon has his training center, and he can walk in there with less than 6 people. You know what I'm saying? He can have one-on-one wrestling. He can narrow it down from tag teams. Tag teams are 4, right? So you got 2 and 2 on each side. That's 4. And then you can have a couple of commentators and a cameraman. The shot is going to be kind of condensed from different angles as it would be in a live casting. You know what I'm saying? Like Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, or what have you. That's gonna break down differently. And then you can put 1 or 2 commentators on the side. That still places you under 10 people. But make no mistake about it, it is entertainment. Seriously, it's entertainment. You don't have to have commissions. We're not sitting up here with boxing has to have an EMT on deck too. That's minimal 2 people. That's minimal. That's minimal 2 people. According to the size, and everything of the fight card. That's minimal 2 people going to be on deck for EMT. Let's not forget about that. And look at the commission. World Wrestling Entertainment, they're still able to go and do what they're doing because they fall under a different type of format. They're not combat sports. Even though they have full contact, it's choreographed. But when you talk about UFC and boxing, we have commission, we have regulations, we have so many other measures that has to be checked off. It makes it very difficult for somebody to just say, fuck it. We holding the event in here. No. Vince McMahon is holding the event at his center. And they don't need a whole lot of essentials that boxing need and MMA and all these other sports that's full contact to operate and put on the card. They don't have to do that. They don't have to do that. That's the good thing about Vince McMahon. That's why he's able to, keep eating a little bit. Vince McMahon is able to cook a little bit. Vince McMahon is able to keep the stove hot a little bit and put on shows because they can go in there and have a match and it lasts however long and they out. Like with mixed martial arts, you're going to have 5 minutes per round, period. How many rounds is World Wrestling Entertainment? It's no rounds. It's a match. You know what I'm saying? It's a freaking match. It ain't no freaking rounds. It ain't no trainers in the corner. They just in there doing their choreography, making it look good, and then they out. Whoever's supposed to get pinned that night, they gone. So Vince McMahon is good, man. He's solid. He's able to come in, watch his people do what they do, boom, gone. And the good thing about wrestling entertainment, they don't need no overseers. They don't need people just there watching and making sure. They don't need judges. You know what I'm saying? You got to look at the judges too. It's so many roots that has to be in place for boxing, mixed martial arts to exist. You have to have the judges first and foremost. You have to count them into the equation. You have to count the commission, the EMT, the trainer team, the fighters. Man, you have to count so many mandatory positions in order for this to operate. Steven said we're gonna be watching pool tournaments. Hey man, I already watched that. I'll watch a pool tournament. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's a good shit, but I ain't gonna lie to you. It's not something I'll watch, in place of boxing. I'm only watching some of these reruns and sports is on because it's what has to happen. It's the only thing that's out there right now. You know what I'm saying? It's a fallback for entertainment. It's in a bad place. And look, we thinking about boxing and mixed martial arts, right? But we're not even looking at the people who shut down first. We're not even thinking about the NBA. Boxing is not going to get popping unless the NBA is somewhere around there. You know what I'm saying? The rest of the season is done. But you got to look at NBA, you got to look at the NFL. All these other sports collectively have to come into the equation to somehow be a part of the lift, the bands being lifted and be able to operate. How is National Football League going to operate? And you're talking about they can only be a gathering of this. How? I'm pretty sure, people understand that the offensive defense is totally two different parts of football. You're not on there just playing, the same guys the entire game. So that in itself, we understandably know that it's going to be guys on the sideline. You're not going to be able to come in there and say, well, let's just bring four for offense, four for defense. It's just not going to happen. So we have to take that in consideration when it comes to boxing and MMA. We have to talk about these other sports, basketball, football, all of that, soccer. But pool tournaments, man, I don't think that's going to be at the top of a lot of people's list unless you got the big dogs playing. I get what you're saying. They already rehearsed and everything. No cut man, no judges, none of that, man. So Vince McMahon, right, Steven? He looking at this shit like, I'm good. I don't need no damn judges. The referee is in there for whoever's supposed to get pinned. They're gonna make it as entertaining as they possibly can, and then whoever's supposed to get pinned gonna get pinned, and then they out. And then the next two people, like I said before, instead of them having a huge night of tag team action, which is 2 and 2, a total of 4 wrestlers on the ring apron at the same time, they might just cut it down to singles. You feel me? So, like you just said, no judges. You know what I'm saying? They don't need all that in wrestling entertainment. That's why they're going to continue to thrive during this recession, during this pandemic, because they're choreographed. They're not going in there to actual earn a title like that, or you don't know the outcome. They pretty much know the outcome. Absolutely. Steve say Ohio State president said they are open to playing a game without fans. So are they going to test teams before every game? Football is definitely not social distance. And a very solid point. Football isn't social distancing, man. It's not even close. So for them to have the funds, right? Once again, this is not something that we're accessible to out here in the general public. We're not accessible to test kits right now. The test kits is not at general locations or for businesses to basically test their employees before they come into work. Now, of course, businesses is not going to allow themselves to be in a somewhat of recession right now, losing money, then have to purchase test kits, and then you have to test everybody that comes in the restaurant to eat. That ain't gonna happen. That shit ain't gonna happen. They'll be losing more money doing that. You would get resistance, because people are not gonna want to go through that protocol to be safe. They're gonna basically say, "Oh, you inconveniencing me. I just came in here to eat, and I gotta go through a test. It's time consuming and it's too much, man." So for football to say they're gonna do this, that, and the other, they gotta get tested. They're not immune to catching this COVID-19. They're not immune, man. They have to go through the process like everybody else, yo. They have to. It's bad. As much as I don't want to use bad all the time, in this case, I can't find any good. If I find good and come on here and talk about it, it's going to be disingenuous. I'm just creating narratives just to make the listener or the viewer feel some type of way. Steven say Vince in the gray area. You can say that, but it's a very light gray though. It's a very light gray because Vince, once again, it's a lot of staff and mandatory positions that he doesn't have to fill. So Vince is operating on preconceived results. You know what I'm saying? So he don't have to sit up here and worry about the mandatory quota. Boxing and MMA has mandatory quotas to every arena they go into. They cannot go in there and perform without certain people in place. They can't do it. They cannot do it. They need the commission to be there. They need the EMTs. That's going to build up your numbers right there. They have to have judges. Man, they have to have so many people outside the cage that are mandatory that Dana White and the boxing promoters, their numbers are going to run up. You know what I'm saying? When you're talking about 10, it's going to be very, very difficult. Extremely difficult. And then you're talking about safety. They have to have these people in place for safety. You're talking about the referee. If you just look at the fighters, who's in the ring, that's 3 already. You take the EMT, that's 5. You take the trainers and all that puts you over 10. The teams is on the apron. We haven't even started to calculate the people on the outside who really has nothing to do with the physical aspect of the fighters and the fight itself. If you look at the people that's in the cage of the ring, and then the teams, and then the people that has to be in place out there with the judges, commission, and the EMTs, it's tough. I mean, that thread is very, very frayed when it comes to pushing it. You know, Dana White, there's no way that he was going out there to put on a card with just 10 people. He didn't have to do that if he was going out there on that island. He didn't have to. He could have brought, okay, first of all, it wasn't going to be allowed fans. First of all, fans wasn't going to be allowed. But everybody that he brought, the numbers had to be specifically and carefully accounted for. Only priority staff to make the fight card work, cameras and everybody else. They have to be tested. The fighters have to be tested. Then they have to go in there and make sure they're maintaining weight, have the weigh-ins, make sure the nutrition, because we're talking about isolations, right? So the isolation aspect of it, these fighters still have to eat. So that they're not going to be allowed to just roam around on the outside once they get tested. So Dana White is going to have to make accommodations for catering. To, you know, can you imagine? Dana White is going to have to provide catering. You know, fighters are just not going to be able to go out here and get grocery. I mean, it's just going to be so much stipulation because they're going to be like, you got tested already. So you just can't walk out here, go to the grocery store and come back in and then cook your own food. What Dana White was trying to pull off, it would have been absolutely legendary and amazing if he was able to make that shit work. Real talk. If he was able to make all the components work together and link up, it would have been amazing to see a UFC card this upcoming month. I mean, this upcoming week. And in light of what we're experiencing right now, for him to even go over there to that particular place and have that fight card, it was 11 fights on the undercard. Now, granted, the main event was still lit. You had Justin Gaethje and Tony Ferguson, but the co-main event, it never basically mentioned a replacement for who was going to replace Rose Namajunas. And that was a problem. When I didn't see an immediate replacement for Rose Namajunas, I say, you know what? This might be canceled. Because word haven't got out yet the reason why Rose Namajunas pulled out. People really didn't have the solid word yet. And then when it came back, it was 2 of her family members due to COVID-19. Oh, all hell broke loose. You know, Governor Newsom was like, hell no. I'm making phone calls right now. Conference. Line killer in the building. Salute, my brother. Y'all be sure to subscribe to the Line Killer's channel all day. What's good? Steven say, what do you think about the Little League football this summer? So you think it's going to be any high school football? Man, the Little League is not even, I mean, come on. You talking about Little League? Look, hey, Steven, I'm about to go. You talking about practice? You talk about Little League? The Little League is so far off the scale, bro. There's no need for us to even waste our oxygen. There's no need for us to even waste a dialogue talking about Little League. Little League? Man, they so far down the ladder. No one. Little League, they fall up on the strict. Like they ain't really nobody. You know what I'm saying? They can't do shit. They can't do nothing. They can't do anything. It all gonna come from the top first. The top dogs is the ones who's waiting for the answers. And they're waiting for all, the all clear, or they waiting for the lifts, the ban to be lifted and everything. For all these, politicians and everything. Line Killer say nothing much. It's Saturday. Yes, Saturday, bro. You know what it is. It's Saturday for sure. Are you gonna do a PC later? Steven says summer without swimming pools open. Well, we can do without the swimming pool, man. I ain't gonna lie. I grew up swimming in lakes myself. I went to a community pool every now and then, but I grew up swimming in lakes. I know the lakes have changed for some people. Not to get off subject, but I grew up in lakes. We used to jump off in lakes. So forget a pool. The only thing that happened when we went to a community pool, you come out looking like Michael Blackson. Real talk. You know what I'm saying? I used to be, light skinned until I started going to community pools and found out they had a certain percentage of chlorine in there. And we came out looking like a whole group of, I'm not gonna go there, but we was like 10 shades darker, man. Seriously. That shit didn't make no sense. Mike could say, yes, trying to figure it out what I'm going to talk about. Real talk. That's all good, man. Do what you do. You want to jump on here, let me know, bro. But it's always an open door, man. But that's where we at. Those of you that's tuned in, that's where we at right now. Will boxing ever be the same? It's hard. It's hard to say, people. It's hard to say that boxing will ever be the same. And even more so, right? Looking at what was mentioned earlier, if boxing doesn't spin up this year in 2020, if it's inactive, there's going to be so many people that's hurting. That's why I'm trying to reach out. And I understand some of the fighters probably really don't want to, I can't really assume what grown people are doing. You know what I'm saying? Like you reach out to fighters in good nature and you want to talk to them. You want to keep boxing alive. And some are cool and some want to give you a hard time. You know what I'm saying? Me, I want to talk to them. But they probably say, man, fuck all that, man. This happy motherfucker going around here want to goddamn talk about boxing. Man, boxing, I ain't eating right now. I understand it. I get it. I get it, bro. But, sometimes talking about the shit, talking about what you was able to do, talking about fights you've had, that may relieve some of the, the stress that you got going on right now. That may take your mind off, what you currently experiencing. You know what I'm saying? You may be stressed out a bit, but, going in here talking about, the sport of boxing, cool. But what I'm trying to do is kind of put a pinhole in what I'm seeing right now across the board in a lot of media and social media groups. And that is, what if Goliath faced Bigfoot Silver? What if Sonny Liston faced Errol Spence? I'm getting some of the craziest fantasy matchups. I'm saying, people, you're destroying boxing with this animation shit. You know what I'm saying? You're just destroying boxing. They will ask them, say, what about George Foreman and Sergey Kovalov? They ask a dumbass question, man, that puts people out of weight classes. They be matching up elite boxers with actors. I don't know how many damn posts I've seen with Michael Jai White. and whoever. What about Michael Jai White and Gary Coleman? You know, what about that matchup? What about Kimbo Slice? They just coming up with people in posthumous, just asking how would they match up? How would they match up? Man, I'm exhausted from seeing that. It's disrespectful, and it makes no sense because the matchups you're talking about is very hard to even make a determination, especially if some of the matchups are not even in the same weight class. I mean, we can do fantasy all day long, but it gets to a point of annoyance. You exasperated, you know, listening to reading this shit. Lion Killer said, I will send you a link. I just did a video on which combat sports is the future. Okay. I saw the one you did this morning, though. You know what I'm saying? Okay, we back. Somehow dropped out. You know how that is. Lost connection or what have you. Let me go back over here, get this going. All right. So as I was saying about Al Haymon and Bob Arum, the only way boxing is resuscitated is its powers higher than them. This is the crazy thing about the sport. The ones that's in charge, they can't really make any decisions because it's out of their scope of authority. It's out of their scope, period, in general. They can't even come and talk about it and make plans. They can put cards together with projected, timelines, but they have nothing that's confirmed. They have nothing that's validated for them to say, you know what, without saying if, when. They can't put any wins out there. You know what I'm saying? When this fight card right here is gonna go down, we're gonna put it on in June, and we need to get these fighters and make sure they're in training camp. It can't happen because we still restricted. Gyms are closed. You know what I'm saying? So it's an alphabetic process, man, for real. You really got to start off with A this time. You know what I'm saying? You really got to start off with A and work your way up. It's crazy, man, in a whole lot of ways, because what you think was easy just by being able to look at the sport, being able to visit the sport, attend fight cards or whatever, to get it restarted, it's so many other areas that has to happen for these people like Bob Arum and Al Haymon to even make decisions. It's so, we're talking about fighters. In order for them to make anything, the fighters themselves have to have ample amount of training camp, weeks in training camp. Hopefully you see some of these fighters out here. They done picked up some weight. I'm not gonna lie, it's some fighters out there that's picked up some weight. I'm not gonna say any names, but it's some fighters out there that's ready to compete at welterweight right now, and they basically compete at lightweight, junior lightweight. But what can they do, man? if they live in a nice home and they really don't have all the essentials set up for a gym. You know, you can have your treadmill, you can have your heavy bag, reaction bag, you know, have somebody come over for mitts. But sparring though, how you gonna get the sparring in? How you gonna get that work? I mean, that takes a lot off, man. Like the only positive aspect I can take out of this without being facetious, right, is that a lot of fighters have more time to work on their craft. In a sense, they have more time to work on their craft, right? And another positive aspect is these fighters that were scheduled to fight, now the schedule is so messed up is that we may indeed see some of these not super fights, but these best fight the best type of matchups when boxing do resume. You know, we might see a heavy fight card just to appease the fight fans. You know what I'm saying? We may see a heavy ass fight card. It may be on PPV. But if you're talking about 4 or 5 fights with some high ranked top tier names on there to kick this off, and then the rest of the fight card is just as hot, it'll be good. It'll be good to, you know, throw boxing in gear, man, and start to do that burnout. You know, warm the tires up a little bit, catch traction, and get back on the airwaves and get people interested. Because you got to look at it in that perspective also, the fans. How many fans is boxing losing right now? Not because they don't want to watch the sport, but we're talking about the unemployment rate. How many fans that watched boxing before lost their jobs and had to file for unemployment? And those individuals are not going to be, you know, how you put it? They're not going to be too enthused to pay for PPV when it comes to boxing. PPV on boxing ain't exactly cheap, y'all. You know, they ain't coming back. They're not going to come back once the sport is lifted enough for them to resume action. Boxing is still not going to come up and say, you know what, we're going to do a PPV for $22. We're going to do all PPVs for the entire year for $22 just to get the fans reacclimated to the sport. It's not going to happen. Bob Arum and Oscar De La Hoya, Al Heyman, and whoever else, they're not going to do that shit. Dana White isn't going to do it. Even though Dana White was throwing fight cards, he'd have fight night, and then he'd have PPVs. Dana White isn't going to throw a PPV for freaking $20-something, $30-something. He's not going to do it. And that's where it all comes down to who's filed for unemployment, who's so far under the table right now. It's going to take them months to recover before they even think about paying for a PPV when it comes to boxing, mixed martial arts. It's very, very dark. You know what I'm saying? Line Killer say a lot. Boxing inconsistency. You know, with all the sanctioning, one thing I can say about the UFC, okay, one thing Dana White said, and he may have a point there, those of you that's tuned in, right? Dana White may have a point, and this is his point. He say, I will be the first. I will be the first. Once this lift and we get the green light, I will be the first to be back operational. There is some energy, some good energy behind that. The reason why I'm saying it is because it's less avenues of approach that Dana White has to go through than boxing. Boxing is all over the place. You know what I'm saying? But the UFC has its bottleneck with the president, Dana White. All right. Bellator, same thing. The former World Series of Fighting or what have you. Now the PFL, Professional Fight League, they have. That's what I can say about the mixed martial arts side of the house. They may indeed be back lights, camera, action before boxing. We're not talking about regional. We're talking about televised. We're talking about the top echelon. That's possible because I believe Dana White can create a fight card quicker than boxing and put on a show. I believe that. Boxing, they have to wait to certain areas. You know what I'm saying? Boxing has to wait to certain areas spin up and get cleared. And one of those areas, like I told you before, well, two, they're shut down totally right now. But one of them have the most liability out of it. That's NYC. Then you have to look at Vegas. Vegas and NYC tandemly, they're one of the two hot nesting beds of boxing. Hands down. We ain't talking about California after what they just did to Dana White. You think California about to open the damn blinds up and let the light shine through and say, you know what? It was wrong what I did in calling ESPN and Disney. You know, I believe with the little cases we have remaining out here, I'm gonna call a lift. I'm gonna put a cease to these restrictions. No, it ain't gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. This shit is gonna be across the board, and everybody's gonna be afraid to be first. That first is gonna come from the top, and that's 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. That's gonna be the first. Once they give the all clear, it's not even gonna be a mass all clear. It's gonna be for certain grids that have a certain percentage of cases. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna gradually itemize and milk it. You know what I'm saying? Up to a certain point. They're not gonna just give a mass all clear and sound the horn. It's impossible. It's impossible for that to happen. You can't give a mass all clear and NYC still have cases. Georgia still have cases. There's no way you can have a mass all clear. And then when you get certain regions that's all clear, you're gonna have people like Georgia saying, well, so-and-so all clear right now, and they all clear now. Why can't we go to the state park? Why can't we all go back to the freaking State Farm Arena? Why we can't go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium? People are getting frustrated, and I can't imagine what it's going to be next month if this follows through into the entire month. I can't imagine how antsy, how impulsive people are going to become. You really don't want to get on here and just give the whole dark side, you know what I'm saying, to all the splinters that's going to affect these fighters with this sport opening back up. But let's talk about this. Will boxing even come back stronger than what it was before, now that they may have ample amount of time to just reassess a lot of things they did? Because the team itself, it would be good if boxing really returned with something new. Boxing's been the same for so long as far as what the fighters are subjected to, the routine, you know, how they're cleared, the pay. If it's something for boxing to come back stronger, to entice the public to tune in, and also entice some of the fighters to come back, because a lot of fighters are not going to be able to return to the sport because financially they're ruined right now. So if boxing is able to reset and revisit the sport actively with a renewed sense of agenda, you know, change it up. I don't know how they're going to do it, people. I'm not talking about really the format for which fighters fight. I'm just talking about something that has to do with the fight card itself, giving us some of the fights we wouldn't have seen if the sport was continually active the way it was. Now we may be able to see some of the best fight the best because the promotion is eager to get people to tune back in. As much as I don't like mentioning over and over again because it's so far off, that may needs to happen. Seriously. I know we're hearing Errol Spence potentially fighting Danny Garcia, but Errol Spence isn't all boxing. You know what I'm saying? You got Terrence Crawford out there, and we really want to see him. If they can bring boxing back and see Terrence Crawford, face Manny Pacquiao. I know Sean Porter out there. Much respect to Sean Porter, but it comes down to, like, if he's going to face Danny Garcia, who was beaten by Sean Porter. I mean, okay, yeah, face Danny Garcia, who was beaten by Sean Porter, who was beaten by Errol Spence. People looking at that like, how close, how long do we have to wait in order for us to see Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence? How many pound for pound lists have to come out with these two being in the top 5? It depends on who you look at. Andre Ward had Errol Spence at like 6. You know what I'm saying? Ring Magazine had Errol Spence as like a 6. And had Bud Crawford higher. So how many more months we gotta wait for these two to come close to sign the contract so we can really get the promo going, so we can know for a fact Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford is gonna fight? I'm pretty exhausted talking about it. Seriously, we can't get exhausted talking about Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder no more. I'm talking about for them fighting. They fought. The trilogy is gonna happen, people. That's easy work. That's easy. But now we come to somewhat of a fatigue point, because we have some of the same media talking about, Tyson Fury. He's now talking about this. Tyson Fury talking about this. We haven't heard anything from Deontay Wilder. Anything. And even if we did hear something from Deontay Wilder, what does it matter? Like, if Deontay Wilder get on here and talk about, we'll be enticed to hear about his part of what happened at the fight and how he feels and everything. But the see media consistently talk about the fight and what Tyson Fury is saying, and Tyson Fury is on his way to fight at the WWE again. He can come out and say, well, the suit of Deontay Wilder could indeed infected him. He can say any type of talking point out his mouth that he feel like, and people just run with it. They'll run with it. We're grabbing on to fighters who jumping on IG right now. That's what media's came up to. Media's came up to the point, some media, not all media. Like Errol Spence came up here and they was talking big about him saying Virgil Ortiz used to cry a lot. And then, of course, Virgil Ortiz's father jumped on there and made a comment that I think it was out of pocket. Because when you're talking about crying and somebody almost losing their life, that means the person that mentioned the jab that Errol Spence was thrown out of the top of a car is way deeper than a young youth crying. That's way deeper. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about somebody who has family, right? Both sides have family. Ortiz's dad defended and advocated for his son only because Errol Spence said he used to cry a lot. He didn't say he was a punk. He didn't say he wasn't a good fighter. He wasn't never going to be shit. Errol Spence didn't say that. But the way Ortiz's dad took it and responded, he went so deep into a situation that he made extremely personal. Like, he didn't give a fuck about Errol Spence's family. He didn't care shit about nothing except giving the media that food that they wanted. You know what I'm saying? That's what he did. He went out there and said, I bet you was crying when you got thrown out the top of your sports car. That right there is personal. Hey, any way you want to look at it, that shit personal as hell, y'all. That shit is freaking personal. For him to take crying, because boxing is a physical sport. It's the hurt business. It's tough as shit. To somebody almost losing their life. Errol Spence will never be the same. Internally, and we really don't know entirely what happened physically. We'll probably learn about it 5-10 years from now. He didn't talk about it too much. He just came out with snippets and saying that, he lost some teeth and stuff like that. But we really don't know the extent of his damage. But that's where we at right now with media. You know, it's just the same unicycle, man. It's just like, damn, like certain boxing outlets just thrive off talking about one particular fighter, and then certain outlets talk about certain other fighters that and certain other things in boxing. You can't just talk about what's already taken place and bring up a talking point just to get people riled up again. I'm kind of glad we off the glove subject of Tyson Fury. I'm glad of that. I'm glad we're not talking about all the dirty tactics Tyson Fury did, because the trilogy says that they're going to meet again whenever that is. Now we can talk about, is Lomachenko, Vasily Lomachenko, and Teofimo Lopez, is it actually going to happen? Are we going to see that shit now? Because we really need to see the unification in that lightweight division. I'm talking about unification to a point of potentially one of those fighters unifying the entire division. Vasily Lomachenko haven't unified the entire division yet. But for Teofimo Lopez, it takes his career to a whole nother level, y'all. If he's able to defeat Vasily Lomachenko with all that stature, top pound for pound, and then fight whoever has the WBC title, if the money is right, and his career goes to a whole nother level, because that'll be the first division he won a title in, and then he unifies the entire division. Teofimo Lopez takes his superstar. He takes his stardom to superstardom, especially he's moving up to 140. It does wonders. And then another division is high as the bantamweight division. Nobody really talk about the bantamweight division, but it has a lot of hitters down there, man. Seriously, it has a lot of hitters down there. What we supposed to see Nordino Bali and Nonito Donaire? You know what I'm saying? Naoya Norway. All these hitters, Joshua Greer Jr., he's up the ranks right now. He's sitting right outside the door. You have all these hitters that's about to make a whole nother step in their division, especially Josh Greer Jr. It's only a matter of time before he gets his title shot. And then now you have Rigondeaux. You have Rigondeaux that's down there 118 to look pretty decent for that weight cut. He looked pretty damn decent. And then we want to see what Gary Russell Jr. is going to do. Gary Russell Jr. say, well, if he doesn't get this particular fight, he will move up past 130 to 135. And he was calling out names. You know who names he was calling out. So if Gary Russell Jr. enters the 135-pound division that's already on fire, it's already smoke coming out the motherfucking windows at 135. If Gary Russell Jr. enters that lineup, that would be the hottest division in boxing. The hottest. With Ryan Garcia, who's making a name, knocking out dudes now. I'm still not sold on his knockout power, y'all. Ryan Garcia, he boxes a little bit too erect for me. You know what I'm saying? His posture is straight up, and he's waiting on the counter. What happened when somebody box your ass? You know what I'm saying? With him, that straight up style, trying to use his speed, how far is it going to get him? He might be able to dominate with him with that type of style. But I just don't see any bend and him getting power from his legs. He getting the speed, but I just don't see him really generating that power from his legs though when he need it. When he finally get that fighter that's able to fight on the inside and go to the body and force Ryan Garcia to fight a different type of style. But yet he is a hitter in the game. We got Devin Haney. It's only a matter of time. He's going to be right back in there. Now that we have this recess, so to speak, this COVID-19 recess, who would Devin Haney fight? They say he never lost the title, but who will he contend with once this all returns? Who would Devin Haney contend? Are they still going to have Luke Campbell and Javier Fortuna? Or are they going to have Devin Haney, Luke Campbell, or Devin Haney, Javier Fortuna? Because Devin's going to be healed up already. He's up there on the mitts. He's training. He's in shape. When boxing resumes, we're going to see something from Devin Haney. And I don't think it's going to be a tune-up either. I think he's going to fight to regain his WBC title, and then we're going to keep it cooking from there. That's it. I hope that's one of the positive lights of us being in COVID-19 right now. The recess. I'll be the first one to say COVID-19 recess. You know what I'm saying? We in COVID-19 recess in boxing. So that'll benefit the heck out of Devin Haney. Teofimo Lopez, Vasily, I really don't know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? I can't call it with that. And then, you know, all the other people, all the other fighters that's out there, y'all. Now we have the time to see Julian Williams, you know, that cut heal. You know, for him to get that cut, allow that to heal. Don't have to take any damage. And then not really have a worry about his opposition in his weight class going in there fighting again, looking a certain way. If they look good, he's like, oh, okay, you know. Or somebody moving ahead in the line. He allows that cut to heal, and then we might see him back in fighting for the titles. It has to happen. Julian Williams has to go back in there, bro, and face Jason Rosario. If Jason Rosario doesn't fight somebody else within that division, in the junior middleweight division. You know what I'm saying? We have to see them step back in there. And you can't forget Jared Hurd is out there too. You know, you got Charlo still out there. It's so many fights that's out there. And then of course Canelo. Triple G, I really don't know what's going on with him. This is all bad for Triple G. You know, he turned 38, didn't he? So Triple G just turned 38. And this is all bad for him. Because the more we out of boxing, the older Triple G gets, y'all. And it ain't no turning that around. The more Triple G is out of boxing, the worse it becomes for him to return to the ring. I can care less they have a trilogy or not. The longer he stay out of the ring, the easier the fight's going to be with Canelo Alvarez. That's just point blank. That's period. You know, that's period. It would be good if, you know, we can get Charlo versus Andrade doing this recess. You know, if we can get a return fight and get a unification in that division, it'll be good. It'll be good for boxing. We need to see them. We need to see that happen. Seriously, we need to see that happen. It'll be good for boxing, y'all. And then, you know, this fight's going to happen now that we in recess and then we return. David Benavidez and Caleb Plant. That fight is so close to happen because after he, like I mentioned the last time, after he finished Vincent Feigenbutz, Benavidez tried to send Caleb Plant an offer to step in, and Caleb was like, no, I already been through a hard training camp. You all trying to catch me? No, it's none of that right now. Caleb Plant had ample amount of rest now. Benavidez. So we might see them too whenever this ship, you know, opens back up. We might get to see a unification at super middle. We want to see that. Yes, we do. We want to see that right there. We definitely want to see that. Come on, man. We definitely want to see that. Seriously. And then if Canelo steps up and you know, go back up to light heavyweight. I mean, it's just so many options out there. And then speaking of heavyweight, it's a lot of fights out there too, man. Joyce and Dubois was supposed to fight, didn't he? That's still out there. Jarrell Miller is still out there. We're waiting on his return fight in the heavyweight division. We're waiting for Fury Wilder, of course. I'm not going to be too biased about Anthony Joshua and Kubrat Pulev, but, you know, we have that fight still pending whenever that's supposed to go down, and Anthony Joshua, Kubrat Pulev. And then you have Dominic Breazeale, who's saying he want to be the first one to stop Andy Ruiz. Can it happen? I think it. Look, Dominic Brazil, tall as he is, he's not. He only has 2 losses, right? One to Anthony Joshua, and the other one first round of Deontay Wilder. Do he have what it takes to give Andy Ruiz a problem? Hell yeah. He does, y'all. He does. Real talk. Dominic Brazil has what it takes to give Andy Ruiz a problem. It's just, will the fight be made or not? How good would Dominic Brazil look, if he's in there with a guy like Andy Ruiz? Because both of them are coming off very bad performances. So we want to see if Andy Ruiz is going to be in performance shape to the point where he don't look sluggish, look like a snail in a salt bath, drunk off Snickers, caramel, and nougat. I mean, it's just fucking disappointing on how you went in the rematch and wasn't able to defend your titles. Period. They kind of putting Andy Ruiz in the same boat as Buster Douglas, Charles Martin. And, a lot of people saying he cashed out and shit. And that stigma is going to be with him unless he picks up the titles again. It's always going to be with him. Regardless, he's the first Mexican heavyweight. Okay. But what you did with those titles while you had them, it wasn't credence enough to say, we respect you just because you're the first Mexican heavyweight. Yeah, your rematch pretty much diluted your first fight, Andy Ruiz. Your rematch was so bad, most people really ain't talking about you winning the titles. Because Joshua, we pretty much knew how he was in that first fight. But Andy Ruiz seized the moment and exposed Josh for what he was. But then you turn and go to Saudi Arabia and you reverse roles. You come in out of shape, you underperform, you were slow, and you made Joshua become a track athlete. And so Joshua put on his Asics and he got on his bicycle. He was able to damn jab and stay on the outside and dibble, dabble, slip, move, bob, weave, and do all this shit and get his titles back. I mean, come on, man. That shit wasn't entertaining. I'm pretty sure some of the locals over there was like, man, I'm about to get my ass up out of here. Shit. They bullshit, man. We putting up all this goddamn money and they over here bullshitting. This dude come over here looking like a modern day Humpty Dumpty. And then Anthony Joshua have on his track shoes like he preparing for what would have been the 2020 Olympics. Come on, bro. Come on. Hell no. We got to do better than that. What else is in the heavyweight division, man? Of course, we got Dillian White that's still out there. Of course. We got Dillian White. It's still out there. We had Derek Chisora that was in the shoot. I mean, he's always interesting. I like Derek Chisora, man. He's gonna pretty much give you what you want. You want freaking mayhem and chaos, he's gonna give you that shit. And that's what he's always done. I mean, his game plan hasn't always been effective to get the W. But when it comes down to pressers, I mean, he pretty much gives you all the freaking hell and goddamn sleet, snow, goddamn. He's gonna give you the wind. He's gonna give you all the tornado velocity that you want. He's gonna turn up. And I do like that about he give you that energy that you're looking for in a promo up to the fight that makes it very interesting and entertaining. So, I like seeing him going in there, and split the ropes and go get it in. Dillian White, I'm looking forward to seeing him step back in there. I want to see if he's improved. I really want to see Dillian White fight somebody like a Jarrell Miller. You know what I'm saying? I really want to see Dillian White fight somebody like a Jarrell Miller. I just want to see him once again get exposed too. because he was talking about facing Deontay Wilder and all that. But Dillian White has that game plan. He has a game plan which he let it be known. He go all out, and if he loses, he loses. If he wins, he wins. You know? So his fight style would be good for somebody like Jarrell Miller. That's real. You know, dropping back down, we had Regis Prograis on the docket with Maurice Hooker. That would have been a good fight. Absolutely would have been a good fight. I was going with Maurice Hooker on that fight. Ruger Rue, good fighter, get hits too much, and he need to switch that up. All this picture taking with Josh, both of y'all got big ass damn swollen eyes, tells me that y'all were just willing to stand there and bang, but you know, Josh Taylor was the more active, accurate boxer. He outboxed Regis Prograis, so it ain't no picture taking. I mean, come on, man, it ain't no picture taking. Who else up there? That's to talk about. There's so many names out there. I know Sergey Kovalev was due to come back. Arthur Beterbiev, I can't wait that he returns to boxing. Very entertaining fighter, Beterbiev. I'm not looking forward just yet. I know his name is floating around there. But F.A. Jogba, a lot of people mention his name. He still has a lot of work to do. F.A. Jogba has a lot of work to do before he really step and face somebody in the top 5. He really needs to get himself dialed in just a little bit more consistent and more technically sound before he steps up there. Andy Konoski, we don't know what he's going to do on his return. And, you know, Robert Helenius, who defeated Andy Konoski. I'm looking forward to seeing him step in there again. Dude looked weird, but he went in there and got the job done. So I'm looking forward to seeing him step up in competition, to be honest. I want to see Helenius. That's a solid name, man. Helenius. I want to see Helenius step back in there, man, and face somebody that's very entertaining. Real talk. I definitely want to see Robert Helenius step back in there. And for the cruiserweight division, I don't have too much to say about the cruiserweight division. Really, I don't keep up with that division. All divisions, I just don't keep up with it, people. There's no knock on the individuals that's there, but I just don't keep up with the division. I just don't. I'm still waiting for Alexander Usyk to be able to step back in there. I'm looking forward to see him step back in there and see how he looks. Everybody's hyping him up. You know, we can't go off Chase with a spoon. We want to see goddamn, you know, we want to see him in there with somebody of quality opposition. That's it. But, you know, back to boxing, man, I really hope the sport doesn't take too much of a black hole that they're unable to revive themselves from. You know, the powers that be that's in the positions in boxing, they're gonna have the recovery plan. They're gonna have plan in place. They're working on this shit now. We get it. But unfortunately for them, they really can't make the calls. They really can't sit up here and give their fans, they can't give their employees, they can't give anybody the green light and say, this is when we going back hot. They can't make the calls because it's bigger than them. So we'll continue to sit up here and wait and pray and see if there's any light that cracked through the clouds that's harboring boxing and combat sports in general. You know, we'll see if there's any rays that's able to break through the clouds, man, and open up a bit of hope for combat sports so these fighters can get back to making a way of living. You feel me? You know, this is what we really want, because if this goes out, if this close out the year and they say, well, this is definitely going to be in August, September, it's going to hurt. It's stinging right now. It's stinging right now. But if this goes all the way to the close out the year, it's going to hurt fighters, man. Real talk. I'm not going to lie. I do feel some type of way, you know, that this is basically exposing the top layer of boxing when it comes to the fighters who are actively on a roster or under a promotion. They don't have no means to support themselves for a certain period of time across the board. I'm not saying some fighters don't, but I'm saying across the board, a lot of these fighters don't have a residual income that's coming in to support them and feed their family, put gas in their vehicles. You know what I'm saying? Resupply the fridge, you know, pay the bills, the essential bills that they have. It's tough, man. It's extremely tough. But what they can do is come back with something that was different, come back stronger than what they was before, you know, whatever that may be, something that entice people to come back, whether it's, you know, a decrease in PPVs for a certain period of time. You know, the apps allow people to access the apps that now we're streaming through for a low price or whatever, to get more people to join in for a 6 to 12 month period so we can get more eyes on boxing. I mean, that'll be great. But like we said, man, the mecca of boxing is going to have to be clear before anything start to pop. NYC, man, it's going to have to be clear. I mean, the hospitals are going to have to be damn near back to the normalcy that it was before. And we really don't know what that timeline is looking like. But shout out to everybody, you know, that's going through this. Appreciate the supporters and everything. As always, thank you for dropping in. That's real talk. I'm definitely making calls. I'm trying to get some interviews, y'all. I'm not even bullshitting. Like, I'm making calls trying to get interviews, and you really don't know what's going on with these fighters. You know, you really can't assume that they're in a happy place. You know what I'm saying? You really can't assume that. So you reach out for an interview. They might know you. They might give you the nod, and they might not. But I appreciate the ones who do. And it would not go unnoticed. But to all the fighters that's out there, whether it's boxing or MMA, man, salute to you. Stay strong. Keep your hands together. Have faith that this will lift sometime soon, that this virus somehow it can be constrained. I know it's tough for people. Really don't want to go on a out the door tangent or whatever when you have so many people that's out there struggling, but and sound cliche, but hopefully the checks come out sometime soon. Hopefully these checks come out so people can start, you know, just having a little bit relief. I'm not going to tell grown people what to do with their money, God damn it. But I really hope these checks come out so we're able to see some relief to the families who really need them. And, you know, y'all stay tuned to World Combat Sports. Turn up and tune in to World Combat Sports. Salute.